Nintendo dropped some new tournament guidelines this morning, and I've read up on it all now, and I kind of want to share some thoughts. To be blunt, this is really unfortunate news. These guidelines impact both online and offline tournaments, and it negatively impacts a lot of people, myself included. And I don't really understand how it truly helps anyone, and a lot of the guidelines seem really open ended and confusing. Before I really dive into it, I want to acknowledge that I've taken a break from making videos for most of this month, mainly for mental health related reasons. Things haven't been great, but slowly I've been ramping up again, scripting again, and trying to get back into it. And I picked up Super Mario Wonder on Friday, a game that I wasn't actually expecting much from, to be honest, but I found myself really enjoying it, kind of being blown away in a lot of areas. And it's helped me through the last few days. And I was really hoping that this week I was going to have a surprise video about it, and I had started writing stuff down, and then this morning, we all learned about this Nintendo news, and suddenly my will to make the Wonder video kind of just died on the spot. Now, I know a lot of people who are angry at Nintendo right now, and I completely understand that. I don't really want to be mad. It does hurt. Many people see this as bad news for the Smash community, but it impacts quite a bit more than just that. Many people who have watched my channel grow this last summer understand that I talk mainly about Mario Kart 8 and recently its DLC, but what I do first and foremost is organize Mario Kart 8 tournaments. And to be specific, a lot of the largest tournaments in the world, and really in the history of the game, have been connected to me in some way. Now, I've been an active Wi-Fi player since the Mario Kart Wii days. It was my favorite game growing up, and getting better at it was something I always chased. I cared about that game, so I joined the online community. And that community has had its ups and downs, and admittedly, it hasn't always been pretty. But what I find most important is that this community had good people in it that kind of helped shape me as a person, even. It has some of my best friends ever, and we've come a long way since the rougher earlier days as well. And Nintendo's brand has always been about fun, family, and friendships, and that describes my entire experience in the online Mario Kart community. A little over 5 years ago, me and other like-minded people founded Mario Kart Central, which has since then grown into the largest Mario Kart competition site on the internet. We never did any of this for profit or anything like that. As a matter of fact, if I wanted to make money, there's practically infinitely more effective ways to do just that than putting all your time into, building a Mario Kart community. But what drove me were my experiences growing up and the friends that I met along the way in that community. And I wanted other people to have a similar experience to that, a better one even, playing the game in the same community that I grew up in. So I have always wanted to see this site grow. It matters to me. I understand that none of this is possible without Nintendo's IP to begin with, but Mario Kart Central has brought a lot of positivity to the world in my eyes, and it has allowed people to meet. It has created lifelong friends and even some relationships, and our efforts mattered. And we don't want them to stop mattering. So when you see news that makes you seriously question if growth of our community is even possible in the future, it's alarming. It feels like everything you've worked for is being thrown down the drain. And I've never been paid due to my work on the site or anything. Our payment is seeing people want to enjoy our community and tournaments and everything. And there's nothing evil about this, but it feels like Nintendo sees us as villains. It feels like our only mistake in the end was being hopeful that a company could just be happy that people like me enjoy the games that they've made. To answer the title of the video, it's unlikely that Nintendo hates competitive gamers, let alone their more mainstream fans. There are two reasons that quickly come to mind as to why, that many people seem to be alluding to on Twitter. The first is that they likely want to stay clear of companies with bad reputations sponsoring events that their games are attached to, which is understandable. And secondly, it probably has to do with gambling laws. Though we see these tournaments as games of skill, video games are not always seen this way. With this all said, gambling laws are much looser over in the US as opposed to Japan. It does seem a little bit hypocritical considering Nintendo themselves have essentially profited off of gambling in their own mobile games like Mario Kart Tour before, but considering Tour recently had its gacha element removed, they could just be more worried about gambling laws in recent times. Even if these are the main reasons though, something we of course can't even be sure about, this doesn't really justify their overall statement in my opinion. And this is because they have added a lot more to these guidelines than just ways to stop gambling and sponsors from happening. The way some things have been worded feel intentionally confusing, as if it was done in a way that would scare people from trying things that they think are okay. At its worst even, I've looked at these guidelines and just questioned if Nintendo actually just does hate competitive gamers. But anyway, I kind of want to go through it a little bit, the Q&A, and highlight some of the points, especially some of the ones that give me more major concerns. But simply put, Mario Kart Central probably cannot continue to operate how it has for the last 5 years because of this news. I'll of course have this link in the description for people that want to look at it on their own time, but I'm just going to kind of jump around the things that stood out to me. To start off, I kind of want to go over this section right here. The organizer adheres to the following additional stipulations. This stuff is not really that controversial, actually. I feel like it's almost a good start even, where it's just talking about, the things that they want to see at events. Organizers must ensure the health and safety of participants. Yes. Organizers not permit gambling. Okay. Or the use of alcohol or drugs. I personally agree with that. I don't think that people need to be doing that at the venue. There's, younger people that attend these events. It seems responsible, right? Other things, you want to have like a tolerant event. No harassment, discrimination, etc. Like, these are good things to list, right? I agree with this. But as we continue to scroll and all of that, we kind of get into the Q&A. And this is where some of the concerns really start happening. Namely, the second thing right here. This impacts almost every tournament ran on Mario Kart Central. So the question, are you allowed to use game logos, character images, etc.? I mean, I don't think you necessarily need to have these things to run a tournament, no. But typically, if you're hosting an event and you want people to sign up for it, a way to do that is to kind of advertise the event as, well, whatever game you want to play. If you just think of thumbnails and stuff. If the thumbnail of a video is just like Mario Kart, just the letters and stuff like that, that doesn't really invoke much of a reaction on people. But if it's something else and you see the game in the background and some item is about to destroy somebody and all that kind of, it creates emotions and all that kind of stuff. Same thing goes with, character images, logos, etc. So again, you can still run a tournament, but limiting stuff like venue decorations, etc., I don't know, it seems just a little bit strict, I guess. But again, that's not really the deal breaker, I guess. One thing that particularly stuck out on part 3 here is, what is not permitted. I mean, tournaments involving the sale of food, beverages, merchandise, etc. I mean, is this just the tournament itself? Is it an issue if it's the venue? I imagine this just means that you can't have food or beverages and all that. I don't know if any of you guys have been to a big tournament in person before, but usually there's vendors that have custom made merch and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's kind of part of the culture and everything like that. I don't think that they're really harming anybody. As a matter of fact, I think it gives fans a lot of, extra connections to, the characters and stuff. I have I have a grub from Hollow Knight on my keychain, stuff like that. I don't think that stuff like that is harmful, I guess. Maybe they're talking about, things like t-shirts, etc. I mean, it just seems a little bit strict for the sake of being strict. I mean, if you think about it, why does Nintendo exactly care about this stuff? Moving on, number 6. This is a big one for MKC, or Mario Kart Central. Is it permitted to use Nintendo game titles or character names in the names of a community tournament? It is not permitted to use this. Again, we talked about this earlier with the whole thumbnails example, but, making tournament names that have the title of the game, I mean, it's kind of what you're selling in a sense. I think of Super Smash Con, for instance. I mean, it has Super Smash in the name, so everybody knows that it's the big Super Smash Bros. Tournament. I think that this would not be a giant deal or anything, even still, just because you can always come up with a clever name and all that kind of stuff. But, the biggest tournament on Mario Kart Central is an event that's been going on since Mario Kart 8 first released in 2014. So, it's coming up on its 10-year anniversary. That tournament is called Mario Kart Universal. It's a team tournament that brings, people online to play in groups of 6. It's a great tournament because it incentivizes you to play with friends, to do your best as a unit and all of that. It gets very competitive at top level, but at bottom level, it's something that a lot of people just do for some fun on Sundays like that. And a big thing that this event has going for it is name recognition. When something has, persisted for almost a decade, having to just suddenly rename it is weird. Like, it's just kind of like a why now kind of thing. It's been allowed to exist without really any challenges for a very, very long time now, for a notable fraction of all of our lives even. But now we're just supposed to rebrand just like that, despite the fact that there's been 30 seasons of it established. It's just kind of... it's their rules, they can make it, but it's disappointing. I think that's a fair thing to mention. Realistically speaking, MKU was named that way to get more entrants, yes. It's kind of like the thumbnail example as mentioned. But it hasn't been done in a way to make money or anything. It's a free to enter tournament with no prize outside of, a banner that somebody in the community makes. And I don't know. I don't think it's doing any harm. I don't think people are trying to profit off of it or anything. We just want the tournament to be able to reach a wider appeal, because we want to let people, enjoy the game in a different way and all that kind of stuff. I feel like that's kind of the point of buying a video game, is to, take it home, play it, and then when you're bored of it, find even new ways to enjoy it. One thing that was mentioned earlier is that Nintendo wants non-licensed events to, have a disclaimer that Nintendo's not a sponsor or affiliated with the tournament. That's obviously completely fine. I'm willing to do that with everything. I'm willing to put that on the Mario Kart Central homepage without hesitation. Not affiliated with Nintendo. That's not a big deal. We're not trying to false advertise or anything. We just want people to play our tournament because that's cool, and we like seeing a bunch of people playing our game actively. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Next, I question other things. There's other tournaments also, but there's also things that we have just a pickup game group called Lounge. People can queue up and get set into rooms based on skill level and just play a match whenever they want. Is that a tournament? There's rankings and stuff like that. It's kind of like the VR system, but in a more organized fashion and all that. Is that against the rules or something like that? It's not really clear. They've not really defined what an actual tournament is, per se. Is any setting or environment that is competitive, that is, created intentionally, is that a tournament? I don't know, because I don't think that they've really defined tournament super clearly here. Let's go back down. Alright, this is the big one, number 11 right here. I want to organize a large tournament with more than 300 participants in an online tournament, or more than 200 participants in an in-person one. What should I do? Currently, we do not grant permission for individuals to organize tournaments with more than 300 participants in an online tournament, or more than 200 participants in an in-person tournament. We appreciate your understanding. Well, I don't have any understanding here, actually. It seems to directly conflict with a lot of my personal goals, and I don't even know what the motive here is. Is this supposed to be for monetized tournaments only? Well, I don't really know. This hasn't really been stated. I don't know where it's specified. For a really long time now, the goal has been we want more people playing our game. We want more opponents. We want, bigger community. We want things to feel more grandiose and epic. A lot of the time, we've just been playing for, nothing more than pride. That's what makes the lounge thing that I mentioned earlier go, even. Just all pride. There's no cash reward you get or anything for being the number one player on that. It's just for fun. So, why exactly do we just want to limit the amount of participants in a tournament? Why does that hurt anybody. It just kind of feels like this is micromanaging for the sake of micromanaging. And I don't understand why a bunch of people that buy your game and decide that they all want to play against each other in an organized fashion, why are they not allowed to do that? I want to move on from this one, but this is problematic because a lot of the tournaments hosted on Mario Kart Central, matter of fact, these days, probably most of them clear 300 participants online and all of that. The real kicker here is just, I mean, we don't think that we're doing anything wrong here, but we are being, I guess, told that what we are doing is wrong now. It's all been in good fun. We don't believe we've been harming anybody. We do it for free. Nobody's making money off of it. I mean, are you guys going to come after us if we keep doing it? Like, what is the issue here? Well, why can we not host a large tournament if there's not even a prize, mind you? It's just confusing. Then going on to 12, talks about blocks and all that kind of stuff. It seems needlessly complicated, not really something that even seems to be remotely like in the ballpark of, you know, what a normal bracket tournament would entail. I imagine that there's a lot of loopholes that can be exploited with this. Not really interested in talking about that right now. I just kind of want to go over like the extent of the text and all that. So y'all can read this on your own time if you are interested, but it seems like a needlessly complicated way of running tournaments that can be organized just fine in other ways. 13. Can school clubs or neighborhood associations host community tournaments under these guidelines? School clubs are organizations, however, they may conduct competitions without requiring a license as long as the following conditions are met and they adhere to the stipulations within the guidelines. Participation in the tournament will not be open to the public, and the participants will be limited to the members of the school club. Okay. Nintendo, why do you care? Like, why do you care? Like, this is so oddly specific. Why are we micromanaging to this degree? 15. How can I host a game tournament using Nintendo games as part of a charity activity at my high school? For students to host a game tournament using Nintendo games as part of their school charity activities, the school to which the student belongs must make a separate application to Nintendo to obtain permission to conduct a charity activity. Like, are we serious right now? All right. 18. Under what circumstances would Nintendo request the cancellation of a tournament? Nintendo may request the cancellation of any community tournaments in its sole discretion, including any tournaments that violate these guidelines or deems inappropriate. So what this is kind of saying is, if there are events that we think are harmless, we cannot actually be sure because there's not any clarity here. When it says Nintendo may request a cancellation of any community tournaments in its sole discretion, this kind of means that, Nintendo, it says it right there, Nintendo, if it deems it inappropriate, then there's nothing you can do. This effectively puts everything we do at risk of cancellation. Like, everything. They haven't really stated anything about, non-monetized events. And even for the monetized events, the in-person stuff at Smash events, etc., like, I still don't believe that those people are hurting anyone. Matter of fact, I think that they're just bringing more eyes to the game. It is really kind of tough to read up on all of this after how they prefaced it all with how much they appreciate the support of the community. All the way at the top up here. First paragraph even. Thank you for sharing your passion. Nintendo cares about the community and would like to support individuals who want to celebrate that passion by creating memorable, cooperative, and competitive play experiences. Like, if any of that is true, Like, if any of that is true, why is all this existing? I mean, we just talked about all of it. If you care about the community and want to support individuals who want to celebrate that passion by creating, memorable, cooperative, and competitive play experiences, are we not doing exactly that? It just seems that they gave us this, corporate positivity, and it feels like insult to injury, because if you just scroll down, you can see right through all of this. Everything that's been listed below just kind of makes it harder. The last major thing I kind of want to talk about is this section right here. Games used must have been officially launched or service has eventually begun in the region. No pirated games or modified versions. Games with online play must use the online gameplay services and or servers officially provided by Nintendo. Now, I think that this is obviously directed at the Melee community for their use of Slippy. I know those players use it for convenience and for an enhanced competitive experience. I can't really comment on the impacts a modified version of the game has, but I will say a few things. To start off, I've always been someone who has said that games you want to play should be supported. I don't support piracy. Even recently, I made a video encouraging people to try out the new Paper Mario remake next year. But on the other hand, I cannot blame these people for finding alternative methods to play these games when they are not readily available for purchase anymore. Mario Kart Wii has had its online service shut down for nearly a decade now, and many people still play it online via custom servers. While I personally prefer Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I don't speak for everyone, and many people are different from me. People who want to play Mario Kart Wii should be able to just play Mario Kart Wii. And shutting off an online service does not automatically make Mario Kart Wii fans want to just play Deluxe, because they're different games with different strengths, different tracks, different mechanics. There is not another alternative for them to get the experience that they want without custom servers, and Nintendo has not provided them a way to play this game anymore. I guess it is no longer possible for them to have a legitimate tournament anymore, since 12-player multiplayer is not recognized by Nintendo for Mario Kart Wii anymore. There's no LAN mode, so if you want to host a tournament, have fun with 4-player split screen, I guess. The online for 3DS and Wii U are going to be shut off next year as well, so by Nintendo's own rules, they are killing off the ability for online tournaments to happen for games like Splatoon 1 and Mario Kart 7. For some people, including even some of my close friends, those are their favorite games. They still play them. Heck, I've even gotten back into Mario Kart 7 recently. Many of these people still even play the new games in the series. It doesn't mean that they're okay with just moving on from what they still love, though. Many people play multiple. Many of these people, Splatoon fans especially, and even competitive Smash players in 2016 and onwards, actually supported Nintendo when nobody else would. Games like Splatoon, new IPs for Nintendo that came out on, let's call it what it is, a failing console, like Splatoon was a system-selling game for people, because it was innovative and unique. Even for games like Mario Kart 64, we can play online now through Nintendo consoles for the first time ever. But Nintendo, the input lag makes it unplayable. You need to have it set up like actual modern Mario Kart games. That's how Mario Kart best functions online. We've known this since MKDS. You can't create slowdowns in gameplay. Nobody can drive through that. I know a lot of people like to call Melee players a bunch of pirates, but I don't think that reputation's actually that fair. Nintendo's not provided a reasonable way to purchase Melee on official hardware since around 2010. And when the pandemic happened, it was literally impossible to play the game with others through legal means when taking into account health and safety precautions. Were these people just supposed to stop playing their favorite game? Like, is that the actual expectation of Nintendo for a game that they created? The one thing that leaves me hopeful is that maybe Nintendo just does want us to become licensed to run events. But the terms and conditions laid out so far only seem like they are potentially limiting what these tournaments can really be. And additionally speaking, from what I've seen, it only seems that this applies to Switch games now, so if your favorite game's on a prior console, sorry I guess. But we also don't really know anything right now, and what Nintendo's true intentions are, because they've kind of acted mysteriously about this all. I don't enjoy saying it, but Nintendo has not been a company that gives me hope in this regard. They operate in very random ways. We talked about it a lot in the Paper Mario video, but sometimes they seem to pay attention to fan reception and other times they don't. Sometimes they offer retro games and sometimes they don't. And I've heard lots of great stories from people talking to people working with Nintendo at events like the Mario Kart Championship Cup, and I've even seen some great stories about them writing back to letters from fans. At the same time, there's also been constant battles about stuff like this as well as restrictions for content creators. And they have listened to feedback before as far as the content creation thing has gone. It makes me hopeful that they want to make fans happy, and not because of a worry about sales or to gain positive PR, but because perhaps they see it as their duty. But I cannot say with any confidence that this is actually the case. I shouldn't have to worry about something like MomoCon 2024. For those of you that don't know, MomoCon has been the biggest tournament to host in-person Mario Kart tournaments in the last 2 years, and it has been a magical opportunity. It was in many ways the natural evolution of trying to beat your friends at Mario Kart 64 over at your friend's house. And this vision was even kind of reiterated in the opening Switch reveal with the giant esports arena for Splatoon 2. Our community has been behind Smash and even Splatoon for a while when it comes to LANs, but we're starting to catch up a bit, and our event at MomoCon had over 100 people back in May, and I even documented my experience with a YouTube video on the channel. The thing is, we don't want to just have 100 people next year. We'd like to double or triple that amount, because the tournament was awesome this year, and it'd be awesome to have even more people involved and have more online friends come out where we can meet, buddies that we live far away with, enjoy our time playing a game, and do other things, in the area. We want to shatter new records and have the most exciting event yet. MomoCon 2023 was planned out months in advance, and Mario Kart was always going to be there. But interestingly enough, Nintendo decided to place an NA Open qualifier on the same day as our Mario Kart event there. There was no way for us to schedule around them because we had planned this months ahead, people booked flights, and their event kind of just popped up on us. If Nintendo's setting this all up because they want to dabble in esports more, that's great, and if they genuinely want these guidelines to exist so we have to get our tournaments licensed, and thus not conflict with their own plans, then that's fine too. I just don't want us to have to lose what we've worked to make a reality because of all of this. It is not clear if that is the intent though. Matter of fact, it feels more likely that they just don't want our events to exist. My personal expectation is that we are going to do what is required of us to get in contact with them and that we're going to be ghosted. I hope I'm wrong, but we'll just have to see. The Mario Kart community is much larger than it used to be, but we're still much smaller than Smash. A lot of this seems to be a result of Nintendo and Smash's conflict last year, but we've just happened to be caught up in the crossfire here. The problem is, we may not even be on their radar, and this all is just really sad. At the end of the day, even if Nintendo has good intentions, hosting Nintendo events is just going to be harder now, and it's no longer clear what really is and isn't fair game. I can promise you all that nobody's really becoming a tournament organizer as a way of making money. Many organizers risk going into debt over these events, and many actually do. And while many people do want to do something like this for a living, it isn't to establish some profitable business. It is to build upon something that they love that wasn't there before. And even if they were in this for profit, well, this is a stupid business model, because the costs for major tournaments are incredibly hefty. I just don't know what more we can do to show that our intentions are good. I feel like all the evidence is there. We've proven it over the decades now even. You can look at our track record. We've always just been about community growth, not, making a profit or anything like that. And that's what it seems like Nintendo just naturally tends to think about us. Anyway though, I hope that this can create some dialogue at least. I know there are going to be some people that find something like this funny, and I've read up on some of the comments from people who it doesn't affect, and I find that really sad. But if you do want to help, I encourage you to just talk about it, respectfully of course, and let our voices be known in the only way we really can. Nintendo's trending, so maybe that's the keyword to include if you decide to tweet. I won't be monetizing this video because I think it's just important for it to reach as many people as it can, I guess, to at least alert people of, the news and all that. I've left a link in the description to the guidelines if anybody wants to read it yourself. And if you want to support me in some way, the subscribe button is a free way to do so. So hopefully we'll be back to regular scheduled karting next week. We'll see on that. Hopefully some good news comes, but until next time, I'll see you all then.